want to talk a little bit more about this and welcome in our panel with Republican strategist Erin Perini and also with us Kira Davis, who joined us as well. Great to have you both with us.
Thank you.
Good to be here, John.
So, Kira, is it racism or decades of neglect and incompetence that have led us to this human travesty in Jackson, Mississippi?
Obviously, it's incompetence. You went down that list of mayors for the last 12 years or 12 election cycles or whatever. Look, my family moved here to California from Gary, Indiana. Gary, Indiana is a majority black city. We had the same problems. You have these same problems in Chicago. You have these same problems in Flint. You have these same problems in Detroit. The problem is that these are Democrat-run cities, and because they're majority black, oftentimes they elect majority black politicians or people of color in one way or another. And then what happens is that those people, because Democrats aren't responsible politicians anyway, of course, everything they touch falls to pieces, but they don't have to answer for what they're doing. And they don't have to answer because every time someone raises a question, they just fall back on racism. They just fall back on the issue of race, and then everybody tiptoes away like, oh my gosh, I don't want to talk badly about these people. Let's talk badly about these people. They are crushing their community. They're not helping the black community. They're crushing the black community, and they're doing it for their own enrichment. There's no way that Jackson or any other place doesn't have enough tax dollars to fix their water structure. It's literally the reason you pay taxes.
Yeah, well,
So,
I mean, that's the thing, though, Kira, that it takes like years of preparation and planning. You know, and I know this, I spent way too much time in my early career days in city government meetings, but this is not, it's not fun. It's not easy to cover as a reporter. Nobody wants to talk about it. It's why so many roads and bridges in this country are deteriorating right now. But Erin, until we as constituents of these communities, regardless of race, start focusing on results and not on things like race and how politicians make us feel by what they say, these problems are going to continue to get worse.
Oh, that's 100% true. And even when you go beyond the wokeness that they tried to implement here and the strategy that they ran on, Jackson has funds available to start handling this problem now. And why do they have funds available? Because of COVID, because of the CARES Act, because of the American Rescue Plan. There are millions and millions of dollars right now sitting in Mississippi and allocated over $14 million to Jackson for water infrastructure. And what have they done with it? They've spent $1 million of it, not anywhere near the $14 million. But what do? They turn to the federal government and ask for a handout. The incompetence of local officials is devastating Jackson, Mississippi, and it is up to Jackson, Mississippi and the state to step up, step in, use the money that's already been allocated to them through these programs and start delivering for their constituency. You're right. This is not the headline grabby kind of sexy issue that most voters are going to talk about, but this is the bread and butter of being a local elected official. And in Jackson, they are failing to meet that basic standard.
I remember I had a city commissioner, Kira, tell me one time that, you know, my job is not that hard. I just have to make sure that people's water turns on and runs clean, that their toilets flush, the trash gets taken away, and that the police and the firefighters show up when they are called to do so. And again, you know, when you're thinking about running for Congress or Senate or higher office, these things do not come into play. And I also think it's important to point out here that even if you get funds from FEMA, if your local community's finances are all messed up, then they're not going to be able to properly use those funds. You have got to have financial responsibility in these communities, and that has got to be championed. Again, not a sexy thing to talk about when you're on the stump, but these things matter. You know, there were inherent problems in New Orleans that crippled the federal government's ability to provide them aid. I'm not saying the federal government after Katrina is blameless here, but you have got to have a competent local community to coordinate with the federal government in an emergency if that's actually going to be successful, if the response is going to be successful.
We saw that happen in Puerto Rico, too, didn't we?
Yes.
When Trump was president, and he called them out in Trump style. You know, he didn't let them lean back on racism or poverty. You know, he went right in there and he said, this is just mismanagement. Here are all of your supplies, everything you need. It's mismanagement. It's the same with Jackson. I'm really sick of this because it's people who are suffering. It's people who suffer the consequences. These politicians, guess what? Every last one of them has water. None, like, I bet you not a single one of them is worrying about how they're going to bathe or what they're going to drink tonight. This is just, it's selfishness. And it is time that people step up. And Black people, we need to stop voting for people just based on the color of their skin. You need to look at the fact that you are having to go wait in a 2-hour line to get water in the greatest country on earth, and look at the people who mismanage your city, and don't vote for those people. I don't care if you don't want to be a Republican or a conservative. Don't vote for the people who aren't helping you. I'm sorry that some people who share our skin tone aren't on our side, but that is the result. This is not the federal government's issue.
And everybody, everywhere, no matter where you live, everyone needs to have, like, you know, a little water stored away, some basic food just in case. I mean, this is what we talk, you know, you've got to take this. The federal government is not going to come to your rescue. They can't. They're not competent to do so. You got to be self-reliant. That goes for communities as well. Great conversation, Aaron and Kira. We'll have you guys back for more to discuss in the next hour. Bianca will be with us for that discussion as well. Also,